Okay, so here's part two. We're gonna do an extra couple minutes, and then I'm gonna wrap things up and go home to my wife and my kid. All right. So anyway, so this is part two of the Let's Talk Media LLC podcast with Andrew Kehn. How do you say last name?
Kehn.
Kehn.
K-E-H-N.
Thank you. All right. So anyway, we were talking about how, like, or real quick. So I was talking about how do you separate politics and the government from erecting your own spot. Can you repeat what you just said?
Well, yeah. When it comes to building buildings, of course, it requires government in order to actually allow you to build the building and have the stuff in it with contracts, lease requirements, and the required money, obviously, to fund all of this building process itself, because obviously you're going to have to go through contractors to build the building, and that requires government requirements and safety laws and whatever else. You have to follow the codes for the building to make sure that it's sound, or you could have structural issues, or worse, illegal things may happen, and then obviously the government can just shut your building down with no requirement at all, except for saying that we're shutting you down. That's fairly simple.
Is that kind of like those businesses that pretend to be a business, but in reality they're running like a drug ring or something like that?
In a sense, yes.
Okay. Or like, secretly be like a mob or like some kind of, gang or mafia or something. I got you. Like, it's like on Family Guy when they pretended to run a pet store, but in reality it was like an
underground place.
Yeah, for them to like really have their weapons be transferred. I'm like, oh man, it's messed up, but it's funny. Man, so many things. What made you want to start studying computers and technology and politics and all that? Like, did your family grow up learning that stuff? Like, like how well educated is your family? Like, where did that all start?
In fact, that actually started fairly recent. It was, in terms of the politics part, that was only like a few years ago we started really getting into the politics side to see what was going on, to see how it would affect us in the future or in the current time, or what could happen that may end up either being good or bad for the world itself and anyone around. But when it came to computers, that was a long time ago, back when I was young, back when I was like 10 years old or something like that, like 2010 or whatever. But outside, in terms of computers, though, when I first started building my own stuff, it was recent due to being actually able to work at the time. But beforehand, it was just doing whatever I could just to make improvements to the current one we had, until it was a decent computer that would work for my family, so that they could play games with me, and not just me playing alone.
Well, okay, so since we're kind of in that same subject area, and we're talking about like places not getting erected because of government and things like that, is that kind of like why, you know what? No, actually, it makes sense. I think that's why it's smart for me to not really say anything controversial when it comes to my business, because the last thing I need to do is get canceled with cancel culture these days, right? Like, let's be honest, I'm pretty much a nobody when it comes to social media. Like, I appreciate it when people even view or stream my stuff, even if it's just 2 views. That means a lot to me. By the way, to whoever who actually looks at my stuff, thank you out there, or listens to me rant on anyway. But I just don't want to get claimed. I don't want to get copyright claimed. I don't want to get in trouble with the government or with cybersecurity. The last thing I need is, the FDA or CDA? No, I mean, CIA or whatever, literally kicking in my door because they're like, hey, you're doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I'm very, very careful. And even knowing that I'm very open, which seems like more open talking about politics than I thought I was, I'm still nervous to even talk about this, because like, even knowing that you and I are trying to keep things as innocent as we can, people are so sensitive. It's like, oh, you're talking innocently, but let me find something wrong in your innocence of what you're saying and use it against you. Do you get what I'm saying?
Unfortunately, that is the case. There are these people, so-called snowflakes, that have been called upon at this point, that are literally doing this on purpose to make people's lives worse. Now, it is possible that they may be actually these type of sensitive people, but it also could be just people who are lying, trying to basically guilt trip most of the people who do content like this. It's just a common occurrence that they will do this because they just want to themselves happy, but not everyone else. So they don't really make a improvement. They just make things worse overall in some regards. But there are some genuinely good people out there if you can find them, which you will find them eventually, but it's difficult because obviously, of course, the cancel culture, the snowflakes that want to make things more difficult in life than anything else.
Yeah, I hated the fact that I feel like I need to. Pardon me. I hate the fact that I feel like I'm afraid to post half the stuff that I do because I don't know how someone's gonna take it. But at the same time, I'm like, I need to run my business. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an issue. I would say whether you're talking about politics or not, just social media in general. Like, all right, if I say this, how's someone gonna feel about it? Or if I post something about like me in my uniform, law enforcement, is anyone gonna think like, oh, he's just a guy who wants to hurt people and prove he's? It's like no. And if anyone knows me, outside of his social media, they know I'm not like that. You get what I'm saying? But that's why that's why I tried to be careful because the last thing I need to do is get attacked or come back. Now, if I were to get attacked or something, I would make another video or another recording of some kind, with maybe audio or whatever, apologizing and saying that, like, well, I'm sorry for this, this, and this. I'm not really sure what you guys are coming at me for unless they're, like, specific about it. You know what I'm saying? But, like, as much as I love doing the social media stuff, not just politics, just in general and not just snowflakes, it's just people and how things are, it can be terrifying to run your own business, especially social media marketing in the way that I do it, because I'm very open, I'm very out there. Like, people know who I am, and of course, I'm very private in my own sense, but what I'm getting at is that because of that, when you're a social media influencer, it makes it very difficult. Like, I recently watched two of my favorite YouTubers, or one of my favorite YouTubers, Jacksepticeye, as you probably know who he is, talk about the algorithm and things like that, and how people are getting flagged and claimed and whatnot, and how like they'll get claimed on this video, but not that one, and how they're having to talk to their YouTube reps and whatnot, and how it's just like a big controversial thing, especially when it comes to African American YouTubers, getting flagged versus Caucasian ones who don't, and things like that. And they didn't bring politics into it and whatnot, but that just made me think like it's sad that we have to even make a video as an influencer or on social media, even defending our case or whatever. Especially if we have to appeal a claim or a strike or whatever. And I guess you could say technically that's po- political, right? In a way, like trying to make a claim or appeal a claim, right? It's not always court system. But I'm kind of rambling on. Do you have any idea what I'm saying right now?
Well, the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm especially, has been known to have many flaws. But the biggest flaw of all is that the claims that are done are by actual people who can claim to be whatever they want to be just to claim the video. But it still has to go through a process that usually ends up succeeding anyways, because obviously YouTube doesn't exactly have the most central-minded system. They're very much in favor of one side versus the other. So it kind of makes it difficult for them to really get things done properly without doing it wrong, which can lead to claims being done done that are wrong, which shouldn't happen. But of course, they can't always be 100% right either.
Right. So there's an African American YouTuber named Corey Kenson. Right? I don't know if you know who that is, but Corey Kenson. So like, let's say he does like a game called like the Mortuary Assistant, and then he'll get flagged and age restricted or whatever. But then somebody who loads up the exact same game, like Markiplier or something, his won't get age restricted. And then Markiplier will make a video and be like, oh, where's my strike or whatever. And then instead of solving things and being like, oh, look, they give him a strike, it's like, hold on, like that's not the way you solve things. Or like, if they've noticed that like if they take a break, a lot of their algorithm does worse, but because they need their own personal break. But then as soon as they start going back again, it starts to go up and down. Like there's a whole issue of it. Besides just race, besides just the algorithm, just besides like people, flagging this or flagging that. It's this being in social media. It's very rewarding, but it's also very frustrating at the same time. And I don't know if that has to involve politics all the time or not, but sometimes you kind of feel like it does. You know what I'm saying?
I understand it very well. I've seen my favorite people I've watched in the past. I won't name them, but most of them have done a lot of videos in their past, mostly games, sometimes reviews of other games that they don't have available to them. Some do go into politics, but very rarely. But one in particular did unfortunately end up having to leave due to the unfortunate problem, which was the entirety of YouTube itself and or Google in general being not very nice to anyone on the other side, the enemy in their case. And because of that, it made it very difficult for me. And so, eventually it came down to a point where an entirely new system came into play, a new website came into play that does basically what YouTube does, but without the politics side being pushed into how it works, making it much easier. The actual website's name is actually called Rumble, actually. It's a nice website. It's much less politic favored. It is built upon the more neutral side to begin with. So that no longer will you have to worry about those issues where you'll run into just random strikes or random copyright claims by anyone. And in fact, they're actually in need of people who do games entirely anyways. So I may end up going there just to see if it's worth the time, just to see how it goes. Because I do live stream myself once in a while, maybe every week, once on Friday or Saturday. I was planning on doing one later today, if things go well with the cats and whatever else. So, cats.
Right, of course. And it's just, I don't know, this world is crazy, it's scary. You know, politics are not just in general how the world functions and just whatnot. You know, technology, computers, everything. It's fun, but it's like, man, you know. I'm trying to think of something else we've been talking about. I want to talk about. Just to wrap things up, I guess. You know, I try my best to be who I am. I try to be nice to everybody, treat everyone fairly, and try to really spread love because the fact of how mean the world is, how hateful it is. And I'm talking beyond politics. I'm talking beyond just, you know, care or security work. I'm talking in general, just being a good person. And with all the hate and everything, it just bothers me, like, seeing it, you know. That's why I do these things, to help people feel inspired, to make them feel loved, to make them feel like I'm really talking to them, even if they're listening to me through their phone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, like, just to wrap things up in your own words or way. And by the way, you are a cool person. I haven't gotten really close with any of the other workers like I have with you. You know, that's the reason I'm talking to you. It's because you're actually a genuinely good person. I'm not just saying that for social media. I'm just saying, and your parents clearly raised you right, and tell them I said a great job. But what is, and I see how, basically what I'm asking or getting at is, what's your own personal way or reflection of how you want to see a change in the world, or how you like to do things better? Because I've seen how nice you are to people at work. I've seen how helpful you are. I've seen you go out of your way. And the thing is that, yes, you have to be that way because of work, but that clearly comes from you internally as a person. Where does that come from? What in you makes you want to see good in the world? You know what I'm saying?
I wanted to see better things happen in the world because I feel that if I can make a difference now, I may be able to make a difference in the future. If I go up in life eventually, I may get to social media a lot more readily available, with my being able to speak more loudly, more clearly, giving people my view on what things should be and not what they are now, which is a terrible mess that is trying to get worse because they don't want to try to fix it. So I end up having to I'm trying to figure out ways that I can affect the world, but in a small way at first, and then slowly, incrementally get bigger and bigger to a point where I can make a difference in the world in a way that may make people have to change in order to make it so the world will heal, or at least not get worse at the very least.
That's like when I make an advice video and I just give people my best advice off of my life experiences. I'm like, hey, look, you don't have to watch my video. You don't have to listen to what I have to say, but I hope you take something that I said and learn some kind of lesson out of it. Or like, I hope as you're watching this video or listening to this podcast or whatever, it's making you in the back of your mind and think like, this person's got a point. They're making a difference. Like, blah, blah. Like, that can mean the world to me. Like, that's why you don't see me like these other influencers who are doing stupid stuff to get their 10 seconds of fame. Like, I don't mind being slow. I don't mind being a nobody and starting off and doing it the way that I'm doing it, because of the fact of, like, I do keep things, like, very clean and non-controversial, and, like, I am very positive, and it's like, I'd rather start off slow and make a difference, like you said, and make a difference in people's lives than blow myself up and look like a jerk. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Which makes complete sense. All right, well, Andrew, it's been a long talk. I really appreciated talking to you, buddy. I do have to get going, though. That's actually my wife texting me right now. Anyway, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming by. Give me a little handshake. I know you can't see it because we're doing audio, but great kid. Hope to do another podcast with him soon. So anyway, everyone, this has been Cobra C Capshaw / MS of Smiles a Lot with another Let's Talk Media LLC podcast. Today's podcast was mainly about computer technology, life, who this dude is as a person, and anything that we have said political wise. I am not trying to attack anyone. I'm not going after anybody. So if anything I said offended you, please let me know. Address what I said that might have offended you, and then I will find a way to back myself up so that way I can further explain myself. But from what you've heard, though, that should give you a pretty good view of like how I feel about things. And honestly, I don't know if we're going to talk about it again if we do another one, but like I said, trying to keep things clean, but also talk things about the world, but do it in a way to where everyone's happy with me. Anyway, I love you guys. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.